Hello everyone, today it's again time for an interview and today we're going to interview Min Kim, who is the founder of Icon, and Icon is a very interesting project, has been having some hype in 2017, has remained silent according to the price momentum, and now they are integrating Icon 2.0. We're discussing security tokens, why they are important, why they are going to disrupt lots of stuff in our financial system. We're going to discuss DeFi. We're going to discuss what Icon has been doing and what their vision is, but also the personal vision of Min Kim. So let's head to the interview. But before that, do not forget to subscribe beneath and also like this video if you enjoy what you are seeing. Have fun. Well, as explained in the introduction, today I'm invited or joined by Min Kim, the founder of Icon. We're going to discuss everything regarding that project, as it has been one of my previous bags as well. Right now, it's not. Oh, don't shoot me, but we're going to discuss everything with Icon. It's a pleasure to invite you, Min Kim. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, users and contributors, the community members are actually from where you are, Netherlands. So yeah, I mean, it's fantastic to talk to you today.
Yeah, I mean, crypto is exploding in my country. I hope it's one day we're going global with that. But yeah, it's getting hyped, and I've had some questions regarding Icon as well. So that's why we're having this interview. But before
Yep.
we're starting, I'd like to know who you are, what your background is, and maybe a slight introduction to my listeners as well. So, would you be happy to tell something about yourself and what you have done, what have brought you into the blockchain industry, and why you have chosen Icon as your project?
Yeah, of course. So my background is I was in finance. I was an investment banker working at Deutsche Bank for a number of years in the technology space. So all my clients were kind of the large blue chip companies to small startups. And while working as an investment banker, I've gotten kind of the front row seat to um, how the industry worked, and I was inspired by that to go out and sort of become a founder myself. So in the beginning, I struggled as a entrepreneur, but I sort of started getting on my feet. And then while working as an entrepreneur, I got this opportunity to go to South Korea. So I also recruited as a fintech executive at one of the largest fintech holdings company called Daily Financial Group. And it was there where where my cryptocurrency and blockchain journey started. We first acquired a cryptocurrency exchange called Coin One. It started out as a 5-person team, but like suddenly it grew out, it blew up. And largely because we were sort of the first to introduce Ethereum to the Korean community. We were the first to introduce XRP to the Korean community, and also the whole concept of ICO through Cosmos through the exchange. So a lot of new ideas, innovative at the time. Even trading Ethereum back then was something very new and people didn't understand. So it took a lot of education. So we did a lot of cool things back then. So as a fintech executive, I started learning more about not just cryptocurrency, but the history and the technology and everything behind it. I bought a couple of books, learned about, like, for example, the cypherpunk movement, which got me super excited about, this whole kind of movement and history around cryptography and cryptocurrencies. And of course, the Bitcoin white paper, was very inspiring, although back then I did not fully understand. But as I slowly started learning more about it, I decided, hey, we got to get into this space and start learning about the so-called blockchain technology, the cryptocurrencies, and all of that. So that's why I started the Icon project, which primarily in the beginning started out as a research house We started working with some of our clients in South Korea, some of the largest financial institutions, just to explore and find use cases for this technology.
All right. Well, that's a nice introduction. I do remember from back in the day we had an arbitrage opportunity with Southern Korea and everything over there. I do
Gentry
remember.
Premium.
Yeah. There we go. I just remember it right now while doing this conversation with you. It's fun times back in the day. But also, Icon came in with a very large boom during 2017. I know that the
Right,
Icon, Aeon, OneChain, the interoperability group, they came
right.
in with a big, large boom during the beginning of January 2018. So I'm wondering, how did you experience that entire period with the big ICO boom yourself? And what has
Mhm.
happened since that moment, as in Icon became relatively silent, in my opinion?
Yeah, so I mean, that's an interesting point. I think it's not just Icon. I think it was just the timing and the market. I believe Icon came out at the right time. We had a lot of good things going, and we still do have a lot of great things going. I wouldn't really say we are silent. It's just that there has been a lot of new entrants in the industry, and obviously as there's more noise, there's a lot more happening in the industry. Kind of the shinier, newer projects get the spotlight. So, but if you actually look into the Icon community, our community has constantly been growing at a very rapid pace. There's been a lot of innovation. There's been a lot of activity within our ecosystem. So we're very proud of what we have built over the years. We focus a lot on just getting the basics right. So things like community building, decentralization, governance, the core protocol, making sure our blockchain is very stable and scalable. And then, of course, a lot of research going into things that we promised on the white paper. So a lot of things have been happening, and it's great that you mentioned interoperability alliance, but I mean, that's a great example of something that we've tried and it did not work out, unfortunately. I think due to timing again. I think there was a lot of excitement back in 2017, and it's not that anything negative or anything bad has happened with those other projects or with the relationships. I think it's just timing, and right now I think with more um, you know blockchain projects becoming feeling the need of interoperability, I think we will revisit a lot of those kind of alliances, partnerships, and of course, a lot of that discussion is already happening. Um, so I would just say like a lot of great things are happening. It'll be cool for the community to check out what's happening in our ecosystem. I think you will be very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I guess I phrased it the wrong way, as in became relatively silent, as in the price didn't move that much, and then it doesn't come into the spotlight, and then social media doesn't jump on it, while the fundamentals could become strong. And that's what we have experienced with Bitcoin dropping heavily. Nobody became interested, and now everybody wants to have Bitcoin. So that's
Right.
basically the difference, right?
Right. I think one good point I want to make is that, I mean, this was very new to us. Icon was, one of the first project to come out of South Korea. There weren't established investment funds back then. There were only a few notable names, but most of them were, very unknown and very, I would say, very profit-seeking type of. So I think back in 2017, when we did our token fundraise, we've made a lot of mistakes in partnering probably with some of the wrong teams, wrong people, because just the industry wasn't very developed and there wasn't any credibility and sort of the history, track record for a lot of these funds. I think if we started the project maybe, a year or two after, maybe in 2018 or 19, I think the industry would have been a lot, it is a lot more stable. There's probably better known funds out there that, are like more of a long-term partners. So
Mhm.
trying to put blame on any specific funds or any specific people. I think it was just the nature of industry where everyone was sort of exploring how a token fundraise was being done. We were one of the first to kind of go out there, and we've made some mistakes. But overall, I think at the end result, I mean, we're still very relevant in this space. We're still innovating. We still have a great community. So I think things are going well for us.
Well, it's also it's not bad to make mistakes. I mean, I'm also an entrepreneur and I have to make split-second decisions. And I can only imagine that if you're starting a project where there's lots of hype, which is pretty new for everyone, that you make mistakes by making those decisions as they are just so fast. So you shouldn't be blamed for making those. And the good part is Icon is still moving forward.
Thank you.
Regarding that, one of the questions that I would like to ask you before we're going to discuss Icon 2.0 and everything that you're building right now, what is the goal or vision of Icon that you're trying to achieve nowadays?
Yeah, so Icon, our vision and our goal has not changed. We may use different terminology. These days we say Icon is an aggregator chain. So we believe that the future is multi-chain. And it's kind of funny because one of our community members actually came out and showed me one of your, I think, recent interviews a few weeks ago with, I think it was Cosmos. I think Icon never said that we are going to be a Ethereum killer. We never kind of went out and said that.
Point.
I mean,
the community made it, or
right?
like social
the community,
media.
Right? Exactly. The media, the community. People. The media coined us as the Korean Ethereum. I mean, I thought that was very, very cool in a way. But our team never went out and claimed to be an Ethereum killer or the Korean ETH. But in a lot of ways, like we share a lot of the same vision as Cosmos, but we worked backwards where we actually started out as an enterprise blockchain company. We had actual enterprises using our blockchain technology, and we saw a future where the siloed blockchains of these clients had to interoperate in the future. So whereas Cosmos began with a white paper, an idea, they built the tech first and then started onboarding teams and projects onto their blockchains. I think the execution is different and is built on a different technology and different stack. But overall, I think we share a lot of the same vision of the future is multi-chain. Like an example I would like to give on Icon is that Cosmos has a lot of great projects that are using their technology. Icon also has enterprises, well-respected enterprises and governments using our technology. For example, the Seoul Metropolitan Government, the Icon's technology is default blockchain that is used there and researched. Line, one of the largest technology companies in the world, has adopted the Icon blockchain. Korea Gold Exchange, the largest gold exchange in Korea, is actually using the Icon technology as well. So we have like great partners and great adoption. And similar to Cosmos, where I would say there are a lot of siloed blockchains at the moment, and they still hold this vision that in the future, Atom will be used to connect all these blockchains together. Icon is in a similar state where we have these enterprises that are using our technology, and we still have the vision that in the future, ICX and our tokens will be used to connect all the blockchains. And we are starting to really see progress with the interoperability technology. So, with that said, I'm sorry I'm making this too long, but although Icon itself is a smart contract platform, the network has its own economy. Our main goal for Icon is to facilitate economic activities with other blockchains. So kind of the end goal, we believe, again, multi-chain is the future. And we believe blockchain is going to be very similar to how there are independent countries, companies, communities around the world where we are connected and we facilitate collaboration with each other some way. So we believe that is the future for us.
Well, that's indeed a very long answer, and I think that's, I mean, Atom, Icon, and also it's usually just the communities that are attacking each other, while the projects itself have a great vision and are building further. I mean, there are so many platforms out there. Everybody has the same ID, or at least the same sort of vision that they want to work to, and there's just multiple roads to Rome. So,
Right.
um,
So I think it's wrong where, you know, yeah, yes, I mean, we read the Cosmos white paper, but we did not copy. We have a very strong internal research team. So, you know, we research a lot of this in a lot of ways. But I think the fact is that this industry, right, the industry that we're in, this technology industry and the blockchain industry, and of course, the open source nature of the project in a lot of ways is about learning from each other and improving on each other's, you know, what we've built, right? So that's what's happening in the DeFi space as well, where a lot of these similar products are coming out, applications are coming out. A lot of these are copy pasted, but on top of that, you know, a lot of teams are actually trying to innovate on it. So that's, I believe, the beauty about this industry. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, I wouldn't really say stealing each other's ideas. I would say trying to make the best out of what's out there and trying to one up each other is where innovation actually happens.
and I mean, that's happening in every market, but with crypto, it's transparent, so people can jump on it
Exactly.
to have their opinion. Let's jump back to Icon, as in Icon
Mm-hmm.
2.0 is currently active, or that's the change that you have made. There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of very difficult words for my listeners in what Icon 2.0 is. So maybe you can get, you have done it already a little bit in the previous answer. Give a brief introduction to what Icon 2.0 is, and what is the big change that you've done from 1.0 to 2.0.
Right. I think the easiest way to explain it is like using an analogy. So maybe think of Icon as a car, and Icon, the first version of it, let's just call it Icon 1.0 or Icon version 1. You know, right now is a very well-made car and is moving at 100 miles per hour. It's going very fast, but you know, we've learned throughout the past 3 years that we could make a better engine to this car. So Icon 2.0 is the engine that is actually moving this car. And we're basically trying to switch out the engine to make the car even better. But the difficulty of this is that, you know, blockchain, as you know, right now is constantly producing transactions. So it's not at a steady state. It's not something that you could just turn off and say, okay, we're going to turn this off for a few days and we're going to make a migration and we're going to, you know, make it, you know, upgrade it to the new version of the, you know, install a new engine and then we're going to let it go. It doesn't work that way. You know, what we're trying to do is like, while Icon 1.0 is moving, we're trying to switch out the engine. And that is where data migration is happening, and that is what makes it very difficult. So Icon 2.0 is a normal evolution, I would say, to a technology development. Icon, the first version, was quickly built on a language, Python. And Python is a great language if you want to get something up and running and experiment. And we've been using Python a lot, just, you know, you do it for prototyping, but of course you could make actually full built applications and products out of Python. But, you know, for a blockchain, Python is more like, you know, some people compare it to poetry. Like sometimes it doesn't work in specific ways that you want it to, and there are some limitations. So it's great for experimentations. We've experimented with some of our enterprise partners that are in Korea. We've experimented with the governance systems that we created, the token economics, and a lot of that. And we've learned a lot through this process and decided, hey, Python has been great, but we've learned a lot from it. And now we know how to build a better blockchain. So Icon 2.0 is exactly that. is where a team of our researchers, after learning about all the flaws and the limitations of a blockchain, and decided, hey, let's redo the architecture, come up with an entirely new blockchain, and this will be a lot more efficient, a lot more stable, a lot more scalable. And we want to be able to make this sort of the foundational technology that we want to keep for generations for the Icon ecosystem. So Icon 2.0 is already built. The testnet is live. We're sort of in the middle of data migration. So all the block transactions that's happened already, we're migrating it, and there's a lot of data, and there's a lot of smart contracts that it has recorded. So we have to move all of that to Icon 2.0 technology, and it's going to take a few more months, but we're very hopeful that this entire process will be completed by this summer, and Icon 2.0 will be fully live, fully stable, and it's going to be the future of our project.
Well, that's some interesting targets for yourself for the coming months. And we have discussed one of these topics already, because I'd like to jump into a few of the key points that Icon is focusing on right now, and also a few of those, let's put it, very hot words into the market right now, which is DeFi, NFT, tokenization. The first one I'd like to do is interoperability, in which it's also very fragmented towards scalability. These two are usually aligning with each other, or at least have something in common. As in, you've touched this point of that projects are usually still working in isolation or in silos. How do you see the entire market change from here towards, well, a more connected future where every platform or project is just connecting to each other? Because I feel like Icon has a little different view regarding that topic than some other projects, right?
Yeah, I mean, overall, we see, cross chain of everything. And DeFi is just a part of that. Currently, most cross chains are all about value transfers. And value transfer, I would say, is only one type of data. But smart contracts can contain a lot more data, a lot more scenarios, features, and things like that. So what the Icon team has been doing over the past 3 years is come up with a technology called BTP, which stands for Blockchain Transfer Protocol. And BTP is essentially not just about value transfer, but we see a complete smart contract data transfer. So that is what we've been focused on, and I believe that is what's a bit different than a lot of the other cross-chain technologies that are out there. And in a lot of ways, we are more similar to maybe what Cosmos and what Polkadot is trying to achieve. And it is a lot more challenging in a way. I think a lot of people, when they think about cross-chain or interoperability, it's just about building bridges and sending ICX or Ethereum to another chain and being able to do DeFi farming, and because that is what you see today. And it is in a way a development from what it was from a year or two ago, but we believe the future is much more than that. An example would be something like NFTs. NFTs are not just about the data of your ownership, but there's a lot more into it. Like for example, one of the features be royalty that could continuously be given to the actual creator of that NFT. So a specific feature like that, we want to be able to transfer it to different chains, so that if I buy a NFT on Ethereum, I'll be able to not only bring the artwork, the ownership onto the Icon blockchain, but everything else, all the data and all the history, and also the smart contract that enables the royalty payments to another chain, all of that in one technology.
Well, we're going to discuss the NFT part in a little bit, because I've got an opinion about that as well, and I'm also very bullish on it as well. But first of all, DeFi right now, and you've briefly touched it, that everything is
Hmm.
focused right now on yield farming. And I guess it's the wrong idea we have about DeFi, but that's just a early phase that's currently, it's more focused on having the highest API and generating a profit out of it than building something that everybody could use. And that's what you've touched briefly in this answer as well. But where do you believe that the DeFi market is going to take us from here? As I think that including data in smart contracts is very important to bring DeFi towards mass adoption. I think,
Hmm.
right? So where do you
Yeah,
see DeFi going from here, and what could Icon, and you've touched that already, add to that perspective for the future of DeFi in itself?
sure. I mean, I think DeFi has given us a glimpse of what fintech is going to be. What I mean by that is, I think what DeFi has proven is that you could take a asset and you could collateralize it and give a loan and lend, a different asset, something like a stable coin, to a to somebody. So, for example, I could get my Bitcoin. I could go to Aave or Compound, just two out of many you know providers out there, platforms out there, and I could collateralize my asset and I could borrow a different asset. And that concept, is very simple, but is profound, and it's very groundbreaking in a way that is so simple. I know that there has to be a lot of UX or UI changes and a lot of that, but the concept of, hey, you know, here's my asset, it's proven to be real. Give me another asset that I could borrow so I could use, and I'll pay you interest on it. The banking system has flourished with this model, but it's a lot complicated. I would need to prove, like, for example, there's a lot of paperwork that goes behind it. It takes days for such loans to be approved. Even in fintech areas where a lot of these problems are trying to be solved, like, for example, in the Philippines and third world countries, pawn shops are sort of the bank 1.0. So when you want to borrow money for something, you would take, some of the, gold jewelries or any type of, valuable things that you have. It could be your smartphone, and you would, give it to the pawn shop, and you will borrow money. And when you want it back, you will come back to the pawn shop, and then you will pay an interest and to get your item. But it's a very, it's in a way, it's been there for so long, but not in a way and not as efficient as what you see in a blockchain and a DeFi world today. So, imagine you could take this concept and you could do it for any real world asset. So, like, for example, I have a property, I own this house, and I have the rights to it. You tokenize it, and without going through the bank, you could prove it to a smart contract and to the community that this asset is mine, it's real, and you put it down, and then there will be lenders out there that's willing to let me borrow the money at an interest rate. And I think that is very powerful. And I think that's the next steps to DeFi, where you'll see actually real assets come in to being tokenized, and the people being able to use these assets to borrow and to do other things, which will basically not I don't want to say replace, but supplement existing financial process that we have today.
Well, I think that this conversation and your answer, as you're the first one touching the security token, is very interesting for Bitcoin maxis, as they believe that you don't need any financial system at all and you can just do it on Bitcoin. But I guess tokenizing secure or like properties or just assets of value through which you don't need a banking system anymore is just literally beautiful. And you can fragment every property and you can make it available for everyone who wants to invest in properties as well. And I guess that's the future. But right now, everybody is hyped about like staking an NFT as a collateral to get an API or whatever that's happening right now. That's just taking the spotlight away from what's really important. So
Right.
do you believe that that entire perspective of security tokens or making that decentralized is literally the future of what we're going to achieve with DeFi and NFT, and that's where we should be focusing on? And how is Icon going to be one going to bring that spotlight to the community, but also how is Icon going to make the bridge towards the mass adoption, as in towards the entire world or globally, to people that want to adapt out of this system but simply do not understand how crypto or DeFi works? How is Icon going to build that bridge as well?
Yeah. A lot of
That's many
interesting points
questions.
there. Yeah. So I'll
Go
start
ahead.
by saying that there's, you know, I think this world is full of different people, different ideas, and different wants, right? We all have different wants. There's a spectrum of it. On one side, you have centralization, where some people are just not comfortable with decentralization. Meaning you would still want to trust a third party to do transactions for you, to hold your assets, to do a lot of the things that you see in today's world. And then you see the other end spectrum where it's about full decentralization. And I think is novel, is very interesting. But some people are all about self-custody, it's like owning your own private keys and all of that. So I think you see kind of the two ends, but I think most people kind of fall somewhere in between. A lot of the crypto and blockchain projects fall somewhere in between. So I don't blame or I don't believe that it's wrong to have a project that is more on the centralization side, where you see POA networks, you see, basically projects that handpick, validators, and they have substantial control over the network. I think there are some benefits into moving fast with centralization. So I think that's partly their strategy and the way they want to do things. I don't hate them for it, but that is not my preference or my belief of what blockchain could do. I think blockchain's real power comes down to being able to build a very efficient decentralized network. And Icon falls more towards being fully decentralized. So again, in summary, I don't think decentralization is mandatory, but Icon is striving for full decentralization. With that said, I guess what Icon, what we believe in is that we believe a network should have control. It should be controlled by the community. So in terms of governance, how Icon works is that we have the ICX holders who are delegating or voting for public representatives. And then we rely on these public representatives called P-reps to be incentivized to keep the network going and also govern the network. So, I think we're more on the other side, on the decentralization side. With that said, Icon, every project and everything that we do, the core philosophy is a DAO, so decentralized autonomous organization. Every applications that's building on top of Icon at the moment is a DAO. So there's a application, decentralized casino called Icon Bet. It is fully decentralized and has a full governance on its own, and it's very, very exciting. Where there isn't a core engineering team, there's basically community members that are helping to build out the products there. Same thing with something called Balance DAO, where usually when you see a project being launched in Ethereum or anywhere else, you usually have a core team, one team that kind of does everything, and this team is usually funded. On Icon, what we strive to do is even start the initial process as a DAO. So it's not just one team, but you have several teams that are working and collaborating to actually get an application built. And in a lot of ways, this is very, I think, interesting that's been happening. But in a lot of ways, I think it has some pros and cons. The cons is that it is a little bit slower. So when you have different teams working together to build something, you're sort of learning to work together and execute. So there's that kind of time lag process for that group of people, right? But once you finish launching, I think you are able to kind of retain a lot of that culture, collaborative culture. So it becomes your advantage, your strength. So, I would like to say that the Icon network is very fully focused on, launching these type of DAO applications that is built, by different teams from the very, very beginning.
Well, there's also another topic that Icon is focusing on, and I guess Icon is focusing on a lot. And one of them is to become a blockchain for enterprises and governments as well. Well, luckily, recently we've had some news from governments who were not really proactive towards crypto, which is Turkey, for instance, the US with a new crypto tax rate. In general, I guess it's still a lack of regulations right now that's been happening in the crypto space. And when there is regulation, it's usually banning or anything, just prohibiting everything that's happening in the blockchain space. How do you see that develop from now on? As in, it's either proactive towards blockchain or fully against it, because some other European countries are also on the good side and some are not. How do you see that progress from here onwards? And what is Icon in itself trying to achieve as maybe starting the dialogue with governments, or what are you trying to do yourself in that perspective?
Yeah, I'll start by saying that I don't think regulation is just, and the things that you're seeing, banning crypto or trying to ban something is specific to blockchain. I mean, we've seen a lot of governments react to Airbnb type of, the hotel management industry react, and then politicians reacting to
Uber as well.
Uber as well, right? So when you see these type of like very new technologies, government just doesn't know how to react to it, because in a way, you call this disruption. So I think one of the problems I have is that a lot of the founders or a lot of people just use the word disruption all the time, tech disruption. So I think they dilute the meaning, but I believe like the real disruption happens when regulation can't keep up with the pace of technological innovation and adoption. And that is exactly what we're seeing with crypto, as we've seen with Uber and Airbnbs of the world. That is real disruption. It's disrupting the status quo. What is existing out there? So all the cab companies, the hotel industry is being disrupted. And what crypto is doing is disrupting the financial industry. And of course, there are service providers, there are banks that's been existing for hundreds of years. There's the central banking systems that's been keeping the economy together or not, depending on how you want to argue. But yeah, I mean, but it's been there for a very long time, and they don't like changes when it comes to because it affects them. So of course there's going to be some reactions to it, and but I believe eventually the enterprises and the government will eventually have no choice but to accept cryptocurrencies and as a norm. Basically, it will be more as more and more cryptocurrency comes into our lives and more people use it. If you're not part of that network, then you are missing out on the opportunities that it brings. So you're starting to see that today, where banks that rejected crypto like 5 years ago, even a couple of years ago, are now adopting it. Like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs are good examples of that. You see PayPal, adopting crypto, and then now you see larger enterprises such as Tesla, companies that probably don't have anything to do with cryptocurrencies or not even their core business, looking at Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a alternative to to dollar that they should hold in the treasury. So Nexon is another Korean company, gaming company, that announced yesterday, I think a couple of days ago or yesterday, I forget, but it's a $1 billion gaming company that decided, hey, we're gonna hold cryptocurrency in our balance sheet. And then our sources throughout Korea, in the US, and the world, talking with different funds and talking with different companies, show that a lot of these companies starting to look at, okay, Tesla's doing it, Nexon's doing it, shouldn't we be doing this as well? So they're starting to question this, and once this becomes a norm, that's where like the network effect kicks in, and you don't want to be left out, because then you're basically following what kind of the leaders are doing. So I believe that regulation has to ease. It has to be definitely clarified in a lot of ways, because it's causing a lot of confusion. And I mean, we understand why, because a lot of the times it's us, like even me as an operator in this space, that I don't know exactly things should be regulated. I see a lot of bad actors, and there's a lot of good actors as well in this, and that's not just with crypto, but for every industry, right? Internet, when it first came out, there were bad actors, and there are still bad actors, in the internet world. But we shouldn't ban the internet just for those bad actors. We just need to figure out how to, how to leave those bad actors out and educate the community so that all the good actors could thrive in this new economy. So I believe, as an industry, as an operator, as regulators, we need to collectively work towards more of self-regulation, where we need to figure out how to leave the bad actors out. We need to create tools. We need to rely on each other to give information. A lot of that is now happening, I believe, or you see like glimpses of it, where when like flash loan attacks happen at a certain DeFi protocol, sort of the crypto community coming together to block it or to stop it, to mitigate the effect of that. And so that's what I see as sort of the self-regulation. So more it's effectively we self-regulate, it will give more comfort to, I think, regulators to actually trust the industry more, and we will start to build confidence so that the regulators could be a bit more hands-off and come up with more understandably fair regulation and clear regulation for everyone.
Well, I guess it's so many levels. It's trial and error. Like if we want to go to governments, we have to make mistakes ourselves. That's what we're seeing with those rug pulls, flash loans, attacks, or everything that's happening. You have to make it through trial and error. You'll become better. There's also a discussion of what is a bad actor and what's a good actor. You don't know. It's an ethical discussion.
I agree there.
But the point is that usually what's happening in the markets when you're an investor or a trader is that the hype is taking over the actual fundamental basis or layers. So when there is a bad actor and it gets hype, it takes the spotlight away from the actual real products that are being built. And for those bad actors, you should be taking some regulations. However, it's going to take ages before we're going to have that, as we still have privacy discussions in the US with Facebook and all those big players. Then another topic is enterprises in itself. They usually operate in a very centralized perspective. What makes crypto, or in specific Icon, interesting for those parties to start working with? Or what are you going to be offering them to make you more special than the centralized environment that they are working in?
Yeah, So I think there's two parts. The first is, because Icon was born out of the enterprise business or enterprise blockchain technology, started building this technology from the ground up and by working with enterprises and trying to build the use cases and working with some of the enterprise teams, internal, developers on the other side, and asking them like, what do you need? Icon 1.0 was sort of as I mentioned previously, it was built on Python. It was very quick. Icon 2.0 is built with enterprise in mind, meaning, like in South Korea, a lot of these enterprise developers are predominantly using Java as a language, preferred language. So it made total sense for us to be able to provide the capability of writing smart contracts using Java. And then what also makes Icon 2.0 unique is that we actually use Java virtual machines, so JVM. So maybe I'm getting a little bit too technical here, but basically we're using the technologies that the enterprises want that hasn't been available in the past. So enterprises they don't want to use Solidity. They don't want to use a new language to build, to participate in the industry because, they're legacy providers. They've been doing for a very long time. So being able to provide an easy access, something like languages and parts, components that the enterprises could use more easily, I mean, that is what we believe will help further adoption from the enterprise side. The question about centralization versus decentralization, I think that is one of the key questions. And it's very, very difficult because every enterprises that you talk to, they are in the idea of control is ingrained in their minds. So the businesses today, still a lot of the even software businesses or a lot of the companies don't understand this concept of open source. Like, why are you investing your own money building open source technologies that other could just like copy and get from you? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So this whole open source software development concept is quite new. Even in the Western world, like Microsoft and some of the larger companies have started develop or picking up or adopting this whole open source standards, realizing that there are great benefits that come with open source. However, a lot of the Asia companies don't understand the concept of like, why would you open source your technology? It does not make any sense. So that control issue is something that we need to break through education. And again, through how kind of the development process is being disrupted at this very moment, whereas, as open source becomes more of a standard throughout the world, I believe more enterprises are going to realize that, hey, we need to give up control, and we sort of need to build applications by joining other networks, Icon or Ethereum or other blockchains, so that we could benefit from it. So it's not about control, it's about giving up control and trying to get a piece of the network and trying to build a business on top of that. I think that's a fundamental concept that it's very difficult right now for the companies to overcome, but I believe it will be done in the next few years.
I guess it's like control is such a political discussion as well. I mean, that's just standard for a political discussion, but it's also right now with a financial discussion, which is almost becoming a political discussion. Control, but also verification and trust, which we have with Bitcoin. How we're going to do that? So it's
right.
I guess it's just taking a generation, and then we're living in an entire different world, or maybe even faster as technology is so expanding so fast. We've discussed a lot, and we've discussed a lot about blockchain and crypto in general, not specifically too much about Icon. So maybe we're going to do another interview in a few weeks from now, focused on Icon.
Sure.
Well, you have touched on what Icon is going to do in the coming months. Testnet just launched, ICX 16 just launched as well. you're just doing the data migration right now, as I've heard it
Mhm.
correctly. What is the core focus right now? I guess it's the mainnet, but what's the core focus of Icon, and what can the listeners expect from the project to be happening in the coming months or maybe even year?
Yeah, one word is BTP, so blockchain transfer protocol. We're going full force on interoperability.
Mhm.
The BTP testnet is expected to come out. We're targeting end of May, probably early June, and there's already we already got the collaboration going. So we've already announced that one of the first chains that we're connected with is Polkadot. We have a handful of other blockchains that we are currently working on. We haven't announced yet. So there's a lot of good momentum happening with BTP. As I mentioned, Icon's pure focus, our goal, our vision is becoming an aggregator chain. And BTP is going to be our focus for the next year or so.
Well, that's great. Finally, I've also always got a personal question to end off this interview,
Sure.
as it's also about a person. The question is as follows: is when you're 40 years older from now, and let's hope we get there. But if you're 40 years older than what you are now, what would make you happy if you look back to your life? What do you want to achieve in life? Or what?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think about for a while.
I hope so.
And I mean, one of the first things is that I think I've been able to accomplish a lot of these things because I think I question myself. I give myself the same question all the time. So maybe 15 years ago, when I was in the banking industry, I asked myself, am I going to be working for money, or am I going to be going out there and giving this entrepreneurship a try? And my answer was, hey, when I'm, in my deathbed, and if I haven't given myself a chance to go out there and do something on my own, I'm going to regret it. So, which, is the reason why I came out and I started this journey of being an entrepreneur, which led me to where I am today. So if you ask me this, and you're asking me the same question, like 4 years from now, like, you know, what am I, looking back, like how would I feel and what kind of world and do I believe envision, and what am I, how would I feel about myself? I mean, overall, I would say that it is, I want to, I'm on my, I'm building this new world, a new digital world, where essentially we're replacing this big industry, the financial industry, where the financial infrastructure is going to be replaced by the blockchain. And I just want to be a part of that movement. And I want Icon to be a big or even a small part of that entire movement. And that's exactly what we're doing. So what I want to see is, these applications, new applications that's basically helping people to, get loans, helping people to use, being able to more effectively take control of their own assets, being able to build the wealth through this new digital financial system that we're creating. So, 4 years from now, I want to be in a position where I can say that, hey, I've contributed to this movement. I'm the one who provided a platform which a lot of these great decentralized autonomous organizations were built on, and was able to serve and provide new financial services to the mass. So, I think that will be something amazing to look back on.
Well, it's already if you're achieving a little of it, it's already amazing. I mean, it's such a big target you're putting yourself in, or at least what we're all trying to do. I mean, I'm not that much different from you actually. When I was listening, I was like, yeah, this is literally why I became an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for this lovely conversation as well.
Thank
Um,
you.
and finally, where can we find you? Where can we find Icon? It's also going to be in the description. So, but just where can we find you, where you're putting out your content or everything that you do?
Yeah. First of all, we have a website called iconrepublic.org. So again, even the website itself is built by our community, not by me or our team, core team, not by the foundation. This is a community-run website called iconrepublic.org. There's a lot of great information there that you should get into, and where you could find, just understand like how Icon ecosystem works. Twitter is a great resource, obviously. Icon and our community members we have a huge presence on Twitter. We're always usually kind of the most rowdiest, most excited community out there. So, I think you will get a feel for it once you kind of follow the Icon Twitter handle. Is Hello Icon World is the Twitter handle. Once you follow that, you'll start to see a lot of, community members just talking about Icon, spreading the word. And I think you'll realize that, wow, there's actually, Icon hasn't been just quiet over the past 3 years. There's been a lot of activities.
Yeah, and I know that Icon has a large community, so probably they will be happy with this interview.
They'll be very happy.
Once again, thank you very much for joining. I'm wishing you all the best of luck with your personal targets, but also with Icon. And let's hope we can have another discussion about like 6 to 9 months from now, when everything
Sounds
is
great.
past and we're just focused on building further. So thank you very much once again.
Great. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.